WTF am I supposed to make of the Raiders this year? Are they going to be awful? Well, I know this, John. They are playing a must-win game this week. The Raiders and the Titans are both 0-2. It's the only meeting of 0-2 teams in the NFL this weekend. A Belichick tree bowl between Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel. So, a little research. 5 teams in the history of the NFL have made the playoffs after starting 0-3. The last team to do it was the 2018 Texans, who lost to the Patriots, the Titans, and the Giants, then won 9 games in a row and 11 of 13, and finished 11-5 and made the playoffs. Last year, the Colts almost did it. Remember, the Colts started 0-3 last year. Classic Frank Reich. And
God, they start slow.
And almost made the playoffs. They had to beat the Jags at the end, and instead they got blown out. But that's the history. In full seasons, only 5 teams have ever started 0-3. And guess what's different about this Raider team from the other 5?
I don't know.
Those teams did not have Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, who not great, and Patrick Mahomes in their division.
I think that Josh McDaniels, I thought the pressure was all going to be on Derek. And after the first game, he blew that game. If you watch that game, you throw 3 picks, 2 in the second half. There's no way around it. But last week, you have a 23-7 lead and up 20-0 at halftime. Like, I'm sorry. And Derek's not throwing like pick sixes. Like, you got to win that game. Like, Josh McDaniels, listen, because I think through 2 games, you'd be like, well, they lost 1 game in overtime on a fumble 6, and they lost another game where they're going toe-to-toe with clearly one of the more talented teams in the league. Right? Like, they're 0-2, but to me, their 0-2 look a lot different than the Titans, who just got blown out and previous week blew a lead to the Giants. But, like, I don't have much faith in Josh McDaniels, even though I'm bullish on him when he got hired and, like, he's going to – but ultimately, you just got to figure out a way to win games, and he inherited a 10-win team. Like, he inherited – I saw someone forward me, like, in my DMs, like, this is bullshit. McDaniels is saying we have to figure out – we have to learn how to win games. Like, hey, Josh, the core of your team literally won 10 games last year, and I would say one of the games of the year, Week 18, on Sunday Night Football, a game that really they shouldn't have won, and they did. So Derek, Renfro, Crosby, like the core of their team, Colton Miller, literally know how to win games in one of the weirdest, craziest, most batshit seasons we've ever seen. And then the number 1 player that you acquired this offseason, one of the top players in the league, has won 39 games the last 3 years and has been the 1 seed 2 of the 3 of those years. And the other year, I think they were the 2 seed or the 3 seed. They went to the NFC Championship game. So Devontae, all he knows is winning. And Derek and these guys literally just won last season. So I would say, Josh, the only guy who I think needs to prove that they know how to win is you as a head coach, right? You've won as an assistant with Bill running everything, but you as a head coach, Nate's getting a ton of shit because timeouts, punt returners, field goals from 80 yards, clearly. I mean, it's understandable. It's not even one of those like social media's kicking him when he's down. It's just pretty blatant. Like, this is nuts how bad this is. Josh is a little more like they're just losing games, but ultimately in normal kind of fashion. Now, I would say the Cardinal game was pretty crazy. You're up 20-0, a team that kind of feels like they were quitting. How do you not fucking win that game 35-10 or something? Is that the worst loss so far of the season, or is the Dolphins?
You asked me that the other day. The Dolphins, Ravens. The difference, I don't want my inclination to go negative on the Raiders here as a huge lifelong Raider fan, but I
thought you froze.
No, I was just pausing for effect on my comment. But it feels worse because it feels like they're in their season is more in peril than the Ravens, right? But it was bad. I mean, the Ravens were up 35-14 going to the fourth quarter. Like, that's pretty bad.
I agree.
Now, maybe the Dolphins, who turns out to be a better team this year? The Dolphins, who wins more games, the Dolphins or the Cardinals?
Listen, that's a devastating loss, but when you're 1-0 losing the second game, no matter how you lose it, it's a little easier to stomach looking back than when you're 0-1 and you're up, all of a sudden you're 0-2. And like you said, you're just some weird shit away from being 0-3 and your season's in shambles.
Their one win is the Jets, but yeah.
They kicked their ass. But my point is, you just win a game. Like you're 1-1 sounds a lot different. 0-2.
I know they weren't reeling because after the game, Lamar Jackson tweeted like, hat off to the Dolphins. Hell of a game, fellas. I was like, oh, that's a confident guy.
Yeah.
Was that game more of a back and forth than just a complete comeback, would you say? I mean,
Yeah.
really,
Well, they blew a couple
of
plays and gave up easy touchdowns. I think I heard Mike Lombardi say on his podcast they scored 28 points on 22 plays or something. It was just their pace on the comeback was pretty nuts.
Wow.
But one thing that the Ravens were doing is they were scoring on like 2-play drives. So it was like, they weren't wasting. Like, how did they, the time of possession? It's like, well, yeah, Lamar was just busting off like an 80-yard run and then they'd hit like a 50-yard pass. They were doing the thing of scoring too fast. When you're down like 3 runs and your leadoff hitter hits a home run and you're like, that was bad. No momentum. You'd rather have him hit a double.
Yeah.
That's sometimes what it feels like when you just score too fast, even though the whole point of the game is to keep scoring. But it's like Lamar scored an 80-yard run. Would they have been better off with him just falling down at the 40-yard run and then just having, another 7 plays for 40 yards and wasting some time? Probably.
Ultimate Niner on the stream says Ravens have a tougher division. Case can be made that Miami just needs to steal a game from Buffalo. Well, compare the divisions for a second. Who's the worst team in the 2 divisions?
Patriots?
I would say probably the Jets. It could be the Broncos. Here's the thing with the Broncos.
What division are you comparing? The East?
I'm comparing the AFC. The AFC West and the AFC East. Denver has played the Seahawks. Not good. Right? And who they just beat?
Houston.
So I haven't looked. Their strength of schedule has to be one of the worst in the league. Honestly, so is the Niners, by the way. But they're like Denver's been playing bad teams. They're going to soon be playing good teams.
Only played 2 games. I mean,
only played 2. My point is just like they might be worse than we even realize because
the eye test is pretty ugly.
Yeah. So now the Jets, on the other hand, no one expected anything of, have showed some fight, but same position. Like no one thinks they're great. Okay, second best and third best teams. Feels like the best team in each division is
really good.
Really good.
Right. I say they cancel each other out. Chiefs, Bills cancel each other out.
Yep.
Chargers feels like are better than I would take the Chargers against the Dolphins.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Are the Dolphins better than the Raiders?
I would say if they played right now, the Dolphins would be favored.
Slightly, but the Raiders could win that game. Definitely.
The Raiders could win the game for sure.
Feels like a coin flip. Patriots.
I don't have much faith in the Patriots.
So Raiders are better than the Patriots. Are the Patriots better than Broncos?
I would just Belichick Hackett feels like they'd have a chance. Yeah.
So the difference is just that the Ravens
AFC East might be a little bit better than we thought, right? Because I think the Jets. One thing I watched a lot of that Browns game. Yeah. Do you know who 2 guys that Garrett Wilson was making plays left and right, and Breece Hall had a couple sweet runs. Like they have drafted a lot of impact players in theory the last couple of years.
Well, the Browns defense is solid. It should be pretty solid, right?
They were up 13 points, 2 minutes left, and they lost.